Now, today we'll be doing a walkthrough of our Performance Copilot platform, and for simplicity, we'd probably just call this an AI product, but really most of ad tech will be taken over by AI in some shape or form over the coming months, so that's not really super descriptive, is it? So we do think that there will be a few finer lines that are definitely worth looking into with the platforms out there, especially around campaign and deployment automation, and then how reliably you can switch on these autopilot generative AI features from a brand safety and trust perspective. Alright, so number one question, what is Performance Copilot? We'd call it an ideation playground to start with, sort of like a sandbox for your thoughts. It's like having a team of creative and strategy alchemists right there in your pocket. But first let's look at some use cases and actual creatives built using this process so that we set the right expectations. Alright, so this right here is one created for Polestar that's now in its learning phase. That means it will quite likely deliver a very different version of itself the next time it delivers on the page, trying to test out all variants created in this vertical size. And it will run the same experiment for all its other sizes. So, if we reload this, there we go, we'll get a different one. And another one. And they're all experimenting with different media elements, interactive components, and the main message here, one of the many suggested by AI. The call to action here is pretty obvious. You get to learn more and click through to the landing page. Now the next use case, data capture. This allows you to actually collect leads within the ad itself. Its genius lies in its amazing ability to sift through all creative options, pinpointing the one that's most likely to lead to conversion. It takes just minutes to configure this form, and you can add things like sliders, drop-down menus, or custom data validation formulas. Plus, go global in no time. Run it in any language with a single click. There you go. Now, in this case, there's an instant feedback system involved, and we'd be taking care of emailing people right after they fill in the form, maybe just to say thank you. But in this case, we'd be including a PDF brochure to the email too. There really is so much more to show around this, but let me just say that we've created this to be fully compliant with privacy laws and data flows right into the client CRM, whether that's HubSpot, Salesforce, or even a Google Sheet that only they have access to. Alright, so moving on to the next use case here, which is one that encourages product or content discovery, experimenting with your key messages, but then also with the media widgets over here. And it's very similar to this one that can essentially pick up your best message and pair with the winning product combination right here. And as you know, that does take an incredible amount of work to set up manually, something of needle in the haystack situation. And then finally, this one right here, driving people to interact with the unit to uncover discount codes, or simply to run them through a media gallery. Alright, so now let me show you how it all works. And do keep in mind that we've only been looking at one vertical size for our ads, so we'll be looking at more options in just a minute. Okay, so this is where you start your campaign. So obviously this is a mock-up page, but there are in fact more controls available on the platform, such as the language and the market we're running this in. And it does make a huge difference as it really adapts your message for the target audience, while properly understanding your real challenges. Here, let me show you, just to get a better picture of that. Here's a good representation of what's going on. As language model would first break down your problem into key line items and content opportunities it's looking to explore, which is a very disciplined approach to brainstorming, I would say. You know, really destructuring complex briefs while navigating the facts and even cultural aspects of your target audience. Okay, I'll put a name in for my project or client name here, and then a URL reference here. And we'll be reading through these references right away now, summarizing the information and also collecting any useful images or videos that we may want to use in the campaign. This, of course, is extremely useful when dealing with complex information, or really any client brief, as we're able to pick up the right language used by the clients, while making sure we read through even the fine print out there. And lastly, we'd put in our requests and any strategy input right here. And it does make sense, by the way, to come back to this page and try to run this differently. And then here, we're set to create 24 variations of this. And that will take some 30 seconds or so to come through. Now, what you'll get is the 24 text variants in 6 sizes, 5 layouts, 4 modes, and 5 color themes. Wow, which adds up to well over 2,000 individual ads, which does sound a little overwhelming, doesn't it? Don't worry, it's actually not bad at all, because you only need to read through the 24 text variations created and make sure they read well and got their facts right. So once these are validated, you can trust that all remaining variations, the layouts, modes, sizes and colour themes, will naturally fall into place, which they do. So make sure that the top tier nodes in this hierarchy are on point, and the rest, well, will organically follow. Oh, and one cool feature here is to export all this into a Google Sheet to share with your team. The project then gets locked and you can make edits or remove variations altogether in Google Sheets. Pretty cool, eh? Okay, so each variation will be running a different media component here, which again is a serious performance driver. So as I mentioned earlier, you'd go choose between carousels to this sort of slide to reveal functionality, countdowns, scratch cards, videos and so on. Alright, so we have our content approved and we're ready to take it live. So although we'll be dealing with thousands of ad variants, you'd not set them up or upload them manually. You just reference them as a project and then move on to your targeting settings. The campaign will then optimize to hit a CPC goal using all of these assets that we made available. So I just want to pause here, firstly to catch my breath, and secondly to say that this is quite the paradigm shift for us and the industry in general, as we're advancing a single-stage inventory-first model towards a creative-first model that allows ads to effectively render the best version of themselves. So effectively a creative auctioning process, if you will, that speeds up our learning curve and feeds back more data points much earlier into the predict models. Okay, so our campaign will run through a couple of optimization phases, first of which is the adaptive learning phase. So we'll be looking to figure the top performing content variant, while minimizing additional variables such as styles or themes, so that we have an apples to apples reference. So as our creatives are now getting impressions delivered, the variants will be racing against each other so that they establish the top 5 performers. This is of course done automatically, and variants will be getting roughly the same amount of impressions. As a rule of thumb, I like to say that we generally run through about 1 million impressions before we get stable variation data that's unlikely to change with further experimentation. Alright, so there really is a good amount of data that we're able to work with now, but now there are 2 elements that are constantly shifting, and that's the audience profile and the inventory selection. So for our predictive modelling to be effective, we must constrain our focus to a select group of inventories, essentially specific domains that are both brand safe and present a good amount of historical data for our models to run through. So this is a visualization of the sort of data we go through, essentially building a scorecard for every single domain that includes past and current performance. And again, limiting our reach to a set number of domains per market really is key here, so that we move quicker into optimized delivery. Alright, so the campaign has now moved over to substantially remove eligible ad variants using the top 5 that we discussed previously. So we're now ready to allow creatives to use additional variables, such as colour themes, styles and layouts. We're already running our best performing variants out there, so we're looking to figure out which additional option is likely to produce an incremental value in performance. And again, there are thousands of micro experiments that we automatically go through to prioritize the absolute best versions available. So let's go through our reporting dashboard and figure out what this data looks like in real life. So this chart here is a really good representation of the performance impact Copilot had on the campaign performance as delivery stages changed. Now these are your traffic drivers or strategies, and then down here is an overview of what deliveries look like so far. There's also a breakdown on interaction rates for different media components. So, for example, you figure out that the reveal sliders work much better than the carousel components. Now, down here, we have all our variations listed. And this looks like a snapshot at the time when they all have similar number of impressions. So the campaign is still learning and ready to go into optimized delivery. So, let's expand the data on our top performer here. And it is quite common for campaigns to show a big gap between our top and bottom performers. On the sizes breakdown just here, you'll see, for example, that one format had a much higher performance compared to the others. And that's again data that's likely to pass into our buying algorithm in the optimized delivery stage. Now down here, you'll see a performance breakdown of the layouts modes and then color themes over here. Again, it is quite common for one color theme to work a lot better than the others. So automating all these experiments is key here. Finally, this is the visual part of your unit, and we've been running an image carousel on this one. The carousel is actually shuffled, so it turns out that this image of the Colosseum in Rome was our best trigger here to get people to interact with the unit, with a 3.8% interaction rate. So I think we'll stick with that one from now on, right? Okay, now for the very final stage, and after our campaign is delivering optimally, there's one step that we call dynamic enhancements. We're now sitting on a lot of data around what works, but even more importantly, what doesn't. So we figure that's really useful. So on this last stage, we automatically redeploy our initial AI prompt, along with all the performance data we've acquired, and even visual representations of our various ads. And this is indeed an incredibly insightful part of the process, as we're not planning to settle with our top performers, but explore further into these topics or angles that prove successful. And that happens right here. As data starts coming in, we'll be dropping these recommendations for you to review and take live with one click. Oof, all right then. That was a long one. I hope you kept up. There's definitely a lot more that we'd want to go through here. But we do think the CPC and CPA spaces will transform quite substantially over the coming years. So, yeah, we hope to be exploring all that together. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you soon.